Dear learners, in previous session we have seen about crystalline solids and amorphous solids. During that we have seen about various crystal parameters. But what are the techniques when it comes about analysis of the crystal that we will discuss in this session? We have seen that a crystal lattice is made up of unit cell. Whatever the structure, composition and the geography or geometry of that unit cell, that will make up the geography and geometry of a individual crystal. A crystal lattice is made up of the unit cells which are arranged in a regular layer of planes, and all these atoms are kept at equal distances. The habit is the description of the outer appearance of crystal, whereas the internal structure is the molecular arrangement within the solid. We have seen that the habit of crystal depends on the conditions of crystallization, such as solvent used, temperature condition that crystal is exposed to, the concentration and presence of impurities in the solution. All the things make up your crystal. Since the wavelength of X-ray is the same as that of interatomic distance, a German physicist Max von Lue suggested that crystal can act as a grating to X-ray. Thus, when a beam of X-ray is allowed to fall on crystal, a large number of images of different intensities are formed. Therefore, the study of crystal structure with help of X-ray is called as X-ray crystallography. In the case when you are allowing a X-ray to strike on the wall of your crystal, when you are allowing that X-ray to fall on a crystal, a large number of images of different intensities are formed. If you are considering your crystal as a grating and you are allowing the X-ray to strike on that crystal, then on the photographic plate you will have different diffracted patterns. If the diffracted waves upon striking on crystal and upon diffraction, if diffracted waves are in the same phase, they reinforce each other and series of bright spots are observed on photographic plate. The photographic plate placed in the path of the diffracting X-ray beam, and the beam or the waves which are traveling in the same phase gives you bright spot. Whereas if the diffracted waves are out of phase, you will observe interferences, and by means of these interferences the dark spots are observed on photographic plate. So from overall diffraction pattern produced by the crystal, we will have the detailed information regarding position of particle in the crystal solid. So the bright spot or dark spot will give you the position of particle within your crystal solids. So though they are arranged in a particular layer, the distance between them will allow the X-rays or the diffracted waves to travel in the same phase or out of the phase, that will ultimately give you bright spots on reinforced and dark spots because of interferences. In 1913, the physicist Sir William Henry Bragg and his son Sir William Lawrence Bragg made successful attempt in determining the interatomic distance in a crystal lattice, and that has been done using X-ray. According to Bragg's, X-rays obeys laws of reflection, and the extra distance traveled by the second ray is an integral number of wavelength. So Bragg suggested that every X-ray traveling from your crystal will have the law of reflection, and whatever extra distance that X-ray is traveling by the second ray is the integral number of wavelength. To illustrate this statement, let us consider a crystal with a crystal lattice planar distances d. Means whatever the layers we are having within your crystal, each layer has a distance of d within them. So every layer is kept or is placed at the distance of d. Now see, when you are having a X-ray traveling or inciding on the layer, so where the travel path length difference between the rays A, B, C, that is AB is your incident ray, whereas BC is your reflected one. In the same way, when the X-ray is traveled to the second layer, we are considering it as a dash B dash. So A dash B dash will be your incident ray, whereas B dash C dash will be your diffracted rays. So both the incident rays and diffracted rays will have some kind of wavelength. So the difference between the path A, B, C and A dash, B dash, C dash is an integral multiple of the wavelength. So when the each incident ray strikes on the first layer, second layer or third layer, so the constructive interference will occur for the combination of specific wavelength. So there are the factors. Wavelength is the one, the spacing, the crystal lattice planar spacing is the one, and the angle, the incident angle of your inciding ray, that is your theta. So the each rational plane of atom in a crystal will undergo refraction. So every layer is responsible for the refraction, and the unique angle for each X-ray for the fixed wavelength will be your theta. So the general relationship between the incident angle, the wavelength and the distance between each layer is known as Bragg's law, which is expressed by n lambda is equal to 2d sine theta, where n gives you the order of reflection, lambda gives you the wavelength of incident X-ray, d is the spacing between the planes in the atomic lattice, means the distance between two layers, and theta is the angle between the incident ray and the scattering planes. Using this one, whatever the statements and observations given by Bragg's, the detailed structure characterization of coordination compound is usually carried by diffraction patterns. This diffraction pattern can provide information on composition and molecular connectivity, and at the same time it will also elaborate the geometrical parameters. The most widely used methods are rotating crystal method and powder method. Let's see about rotating crystal method. In this method, a beam of X-ray, obviously of known wavelength, is passed through the slit. So what is the role of the slit? The slit will allow the narrowing of beam. So when you are allowing that X-ray to pass through slit, you will have a narrow beam which is traveling in the same direction. So you will not have interferences. So when the narrow beam is allowed to strike on a single crystal which is mounted on the turntable, the experimental arrangement of your rotating crystal method is on your display. You are observing that you are having a graduated tube. So that graduated tube will have a spherical hollow end at the one side, at which you will have scale to measure the rotation, and at the second point you will have the recorder. So what will happen? The narrow beam traveling through slit is allowed to strike on crystal, and that crystal is kept on the platform within your turntable. So as you are rotating that table, as you are turning that table, the turntable will allow the increase in the gleaning angle. What is meant by the gleaning angle? The surface available of your crystal will be exposed in the proper portion to the X-rays incident on the crystal. The intensity of reflected ray. Now once your X-ray strikes on the crystal, it will undergo reflection. That will have angle of reflection. So this diffracted X-ray will travel through ionization chamber, and that will reach to recorder. So the recorder, that is your photographic plate, will obviously have spots. You will have bright spots and you will have dark spots. So the intensity of reflected ray is the measure in recording devices such as your photographic plate. So the angle for which reflections are maximum gives you the value of theta. And here you can also have the value of n, value of lambda and theta. By using these three, you can calculate d, that is your distance between two layers, using Bragg's equation. So this is your rotating crystal method, where you are using principle of diffraction by the means of rotation of your turning table, and whatever bright and dark spots observed on the photographic plate will give you the point actual location of the atom or the particle within the crystal, and from that you will have the actual measurement of distance between two particles. The second method is your powder method, which is given by Debye and Scherer, and it is the most probably useful method or X-ray diffraction method for the crystal analysis. As like your rotating crystal method, in the case of powder method, you are having or it employs monochromatic radiation and a finely powdered polycrystalline specimen. In the case of rotating crystal method, you are using single crystal, whereas in case of powder method, you are having finely grounded crystal. Now, in this case, theta is variable, since the collection of randomly oriented crystals will contain sufficient particles. In the case of rotating crystal method, you was having a single crystal, and right now you are having finely powdered crystals. Means you are having collection of randomly oriented crystals. We have seen that you can undergo cleavage of your material. So once you are grinding that crystal, the randomly oriented crystal will have different angle of reflections. So in the case of powder method, you are having variable theta. So now as you are allowing your incident ray to strike, then the correct orientation will allow reflection from each the possible reflecting plane. That is, the powder pattern results a series of superimposed rotating crystal patterns. You will have reinforcement, you will have superimposing of every rotating crystal. So the angle between the direct X-ray beam and the reflected ray is your 2 theta, because in the case of powder method you are having a combination of your oriented crystals, you are having collection of crystals, so every incident ray will have some possible reflecting planes. So the reflected ray or the angle is your 2 theta in comparison with your the first one, that is your theta, it is now 2 theta, and consequently each set of crystal plane will give rise to cone of reflected rays, and that theta is your Bragg's angle for the particular set of reflecting planes producing the cone on the photographic plate. Thus, if you are placing a film around your specimen, in the case of rotating crystal method, you were having a recorder photographic plate kept in the path. But right now, in the case of powder method, because of randomly oriented crystals, you can have reflection in any way. That's why you are keeping a film around the specimen. So you can have the diffracted cones on your specimen, because of your specimen on your film in hundreds of grains, which are intersecting the film to produce concentric curves around the entrance and exit hole. On your the photographic plate, that is your AB, you are having two holes. One is for incident ray and second one is for your reflected one. So what will happen once you are allowing that light ray to pass through the first hole on the photographic plate AB, and the crystal powdered crystal is mounted there. So the collection of powdered crystal will have reflection. As you are observing on your display, you are having two kind of reflections. One is striking on the top portion of your powder crystal and second is on the bottom. So you are having double reflection, that is your 2 theta, and by means of these values, by putting them into Bragg's equation, you will have the values of n and d, which will be responsible to analyze the geometry or the crystal parameters. So this was about analysis of crystal, where you can use Bragg's equation and the X-ray diffraction techniques. Thank you.